San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime use.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? Happy opening day to everybody out there in America's finest city, getting ready for Padres baseball as they get ready to take on the Atlanta Braves for a 4-game series, rekindling that relationship from last year when they knocked them out of the postseason, which was great to see. Padres, again, will start off at 1 o'clock. We got Sam Levitt on the Padres pregame show from the Loft coming up at 12 o'clock. All-day coverage of opening day here in America's finest city. What a great atmosphere we have at Baja, Ricks. Bennett Woods really set the tone early with the leadoff bat. And happy 7 years to Bennett Woods for being on the air. The Friar came by and gave him a nice little cake. Woods ate about a quarter of the sheet cake there. I don't know where the cake went, but I think it's out there for everybody else to enjoy. Pretty cool experience today, being out here and talking Padres baseball with you guys as we lead you up to first pitch today and tune into the pregame show here on the Braden Surprenant Show. But as a San Diego kid growing up and watching Padres baseball my whole life, this is such a cool experience for me to see this because of how good the team has been the last couple of years. Actually having expectations, for the season to start, something that hasn't been the case every single year. And, Padres trying to do something they haven't done in a long time. Let's go back to back in the postseason. So, with the spring, it brings some new hope to the season. And as much as the offseason might have not gone the way I think a lot of Padres fans wanted it to go, it's still exciting to get ready for opening day today. It's like Christmas morning for a lot of Padres fans and baseball fans throughout the country. And we got some pretty good games to start off this weekend in Major League Baseball. We're going to talk some about that. We'll get into the Padres lineup today. Fernando Tatis Jr. batting leadoff. I love that. I've been an advocate for that for the last couple of years. I think Fernando being the leadoff guy is great for the San Diego Padres for a couple of reasons. I mean, he's your most dynamic player on the team. And as a dynamic player, he could do a lot of different things on the base pass. He could do a lot of things with his bat. I mean, that's a player that you want to have up as many a times as possible. As on the YouTube, we're putting up today's lineup. Fernando Tatis Jr. leading things off, playing right field. Luis Arraez in the 2 spot. I think that's an interesting place for him to bat. I mean, I think a lot of people might be concerned about a double play. But you got 2 pretty good hitters at the top of your order. And then you got Manny Machado, your team's captain, batting third. Xander Bogaerts in the 4 spot's very interesting to me. I think that's a little bit more on the righty-lefty play. Obviously with Jackson Merrill being a left-hander going against a guy like Chris Sale, let the young guy see a couple at-bats first before he has to go against Chris Sale. But Bogaerts batting cleanup, Merrill in the 5 spot, Yuli Gurriel batting 6th. I mean, a lot of Padres fans still don't know too much about Yuli Gurriel. He's a 41-year-old that's going to go out there and hopefully bring that veteran presence to the Padres. And we're going to see what he's got here in this first game. Already getting a start as the DH for San Diego. Jake Cronenworth will bat after that. And then you get down to the last couple of spots, Brandon Lockridge and then Elias Diaz. And that's your starting 9 for the San Diego Padres today. They announced their 26-man roster earlier this morning. But, the 26-man roster was pretty much something that we already knew was going to be in place. I mean, they released enough of that throughout the week where you knew who was going to be on the team. The only one that was kind of surprising was Omar Cruz, but even then, he had a locker earlier this week, so it's not like it's a huge surprise to have him on the 26-man roster. But I look at this roster, I look at the lineup, and everybody wants to put out their season predictions of how many wins the Padres are going to get. We'll go through Major League Baseball later on in the show and talk about some of the predictions that we have for every team in baseball. But you look at the Padres, I wanted to give them 86 wins. just thinking out loud of what they might have lost last season to this season, what they have gained, the competition they have to go against. I think 86 could get them in the playoffs. But then last night, went through the schedule, ended up finding 94 wins for the Padres. And I think that's probably the ceiling for them this season. And we've talked about it before. I'll keep saying it. I mean, don't be worried about the team in Los Angeles. You got to stay focused on everybody else in baseball because that's who you're competing with for a playoff spot. I mentioned Arizona a lot. I mean, Arizona got a lot better. Now, they lost Jordan Montgomery for the year, which is a part of the rotation. That's one of the better rotations in baseball. They got some depth over there in Arizona. But even with that loss, that depth's going to be a tough competition for San Diego, I think, all year. That's the real rivalry you got to embrace, this season. And not to say that you can't, sneak a couple against the Dodgers, but you got to be focused on Arizona and you got to be focused on the rest of the National League, especially a team like the Atlanta Braves. Now, I think Atlanta is probably going to win the division in the National League East, but between them, the Phillies, and the Mets, those are teams you're competing for a playoff spot. Same thing in the West. You got to deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't know how much of the Giants you got to really deal with, but that's still a team that is part of the equation and trying to get into the postseason. And then the Central, I went through it last night. Aside from the team that wins the Central, I don't think the National League Central is going to be very good. And that's been, part of the problem for the Padres has been, not taking care of business against some of those bad teams. That needs to be obviously an approach this year for San Diego. You can't let the Rockies come in here and take 3 from you. You can't let the Angels take 3 from you in Anaheim. You can't let the Marlins beat you up 2 out of 3 times down in Miami. And these are teams that you have to take care of business against. But as I mentioned, as Ben and Woods mentioned again, today is a great day for baseball, for the excitement of the Padres season. And it's going to be a fun year. I like a lot of the moves that the Padres made. I thought A.J. Preller got incredibly creative when it came to the roster in terms of deals to bring guys back, to make sure Michael King was set and not have to go with arbitration, to bring in a guy like Nick Pivetta. So some of those moves, I think, are going to really pay dividends for the Padres, even though, Padres fans really wanted, a big splash here and there. We knew that wasn't going to be the case. But I like Michael King today. Michael King cannot wait to get out there and start for the San Diego Padres in front of this home crowd. This home crowd is electric. And I remember going to games, you'd get the opening day crowd, and then it would really fall off. But the last couple of years, you Padres fans have done such a great job in bringing that home field advantage for San Diego and making it really a place that's unlike any other place in baseball in the middle of the season. And I'm expecting that all weekend against Atlanta. They're going against a pretty tough pitcher today in Chris Sale. Left-hander, won the Cy Young last year, and we could be in for a nice little pitcher's duel today on opening day. But as Ben and Woods mentioned, regardless of what the Padres do today, I agree with Woods. As long as it's not something that just deflates everybody or knocks the wind out of the sails, even if they lose by a close margin, it's a good. You're excited for the season. We still got to play 161 of these after this afternoon. So we're going to dive into the roster. We're going to talk about the lineup as well. We're going to hear from some of the players in the clubhouse. Brandon Lockridge already met with Sam Levitt earlier in the clubhouse to talk about him starting, which is great. I love Brandon Lockridge starting today. We thought that was going to be the case with the lefty matchup, and so he's excited to make his first opening day start. And I expect him to do a lot of great things. I know people are interested in why is Xander Bogaerts batting cleanup. I think we got to give this guy a chance. I've been the biggest Xander Bogaerts fan, the last couple of months, and I'm gonna be backing him the entire time because with the contract that they gave Xander and the leadership that he has, he's gonna help this team get to where they need to be. And you got to rely on guys like Xander Bogaerts to go out there and really help carry the torch. It can't just be Fernando and Manny all the time. So we got a great show planned. We're going to talk about the roster. We're going to talk about, the starting lineup today. We're going to go through, Major League Baseball and kind of give you some previews with some MVPs, some Cy Young, some newcomers. If you're out here at Baja Ricks, we got a couple of giveaways to give away on the show. We're going to be giving away a Xander Bogaerts bobblehead. Again, you got to sign up with our promotions team. They're right here in front of me. Sign out a little form, put in the hopper. If your name gets called in the first hour, you'll win a Xander Bogaerts bobblehead. Second hour, we're giving away a Randy Vasquez autographed ball, and then that will be it for a show. Pretty quick 2-hour show today at Baja Rick's, leading you up to the pregame show with Sam Levitt from the Loft. I can't wait to get into Petco Park and see the new Western Metal Supply Company building in Loft. That looks pretty cool. I mean, Sam got to check it out yesterday with the media availability. I mean, the what they do with Petco Park year in and year out is awesome. Awesome. The way that they improve the ballpark, the way that they continue to pump money into not only the facility, but also into the baseball team. It's all you fans going out there and supporting, and the Padres reinvesting in their team. So, lot to get to today. Again, if you want to come by, we're here at 170 6th Avenue across the street from the Hard Rock here at Baja Rick's. They got great specials and deals going on some beers, as well as Blowfish Tequila, giving away some samples as well. And then, of course, an opportunity to win some prizes. So it's going to be fun. We're going to be talking Padres baseball throughout the entire morning and feeling that excitement, that slow build to opening day. Frank Marchese's with me back in studio, but when we come back, we'll talk about this roster a little bit more. We'll break down the starting lineup for the Padres as well, talk about how many wins they might potentially get, and try to get some fan interaction on the chat. We're just getting started here at Baja Rick's. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, taking you up to 12 o'clock in the Padres pregame show. Padres and Braves today on opening day on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back to the 97 Through the Fans coverage of opening day here at Baja Ricks. We're out here at Baja Ricks at the address of, that I had written down so I don't forget it, 176th Avenue across from the Hard Rock. We're out here having a good time, getting ready for Padres baseball. Ben Woods led things off today. I will carry the torch until about noon when Sam Levitt will take over live from inside the ballpark at the brand new loft. So once you guys are done hanging out with us, cruise inside, go say hi to Sam, go check out the brand new loft. It's super cool, everything that they put into the Western Metal Supply Company building. You know, as a local growing up here in town, I mean, obviously, in a fourth-generation San Diegan, it's cool that I love that building's a part of Petco Park. And I've told the story before, but, you know, when my grandfather was, building houses over in Coronado and throughout East County, he used to go down to the Western Metal Supply Company building and actually purchase building materials from that place. So it's really cool that it's incorporated into the ballpark here in San Diego. Again, we got the starting lineup out for the Padres. A lot of people in the chat, again, weighing in on YouTube. If you're on the YouTube chat, because you can't come down and hang out with us because your boss didn't let you off of work, be sure to give us a like. It helps us out a lot, and keep chiming in on the chat. Again, trying to find out how many wins the Padres got this year. I initially wanted to say 86. I found 94 last night when I was going through the schedule and kind of going through and going, I'll probably take 2 out of 3 here. Probably not going to win a couple of games here. I accounted for the lack of ability to beat the Rockies sometimes, so that's factored into that win number also. So I got the Padres. I'm going to go a little bit overzealous and go 94. Last year I went 86, and they blew past that. So hopefully that is the case. Got 88 wins in the chat, 91. Prolific in the chat says 96. I think that might be a little bit too far, but the National League is going to be very, very competitive. Very, very competitive. Let's talk about that Padres starting lineup again today. Again, people were talking about, why is Yuli Gurriel in the lineup? And we'll get to that in a second. But Fernando batting leadoff, Luis Arraez batting second at first base, Manny Machado batting third at third, Xander Bogaerts batting cleanup at shortstop. Jackson Merrill will bat fifth and in center field. Yuli Gurriel batting sixth, the DH. Jake Cronenworth batting seventh and at second base. Brandon Lockridge batting eighth and in left field, and batting ninth and catching Elias Diaz. Your catching position's got to be your 9-hitter probably every single night, whether it's Martin Maldonado, who probably is going to catch some of the young pitchers like a Randy Vasquez, or when Kolek comes up, or even maybe a Kyle Hart, having that veteran catching experience to help the young guys out on the mound. I think that's going to be a factor for Martin Maldonado's playing time, but I think you could basically pencil in the 9 spot going to be the catching position this season, and probably for the entire season. You look at the catching situation for the Padres, and I talked about it when the roster came out earlier this week, and we got the official roster earlier this morning. But, Luis Campusano not being on the starting lineup, not on the opening day roster, has more to say about Luis Campusano than it does have to say about Elias Diaz or Martin Maldonado. And so Luis Campusano is going to start down in AAA and try to build his way to a position where he could come up and help the ball club out a little bit. So the catching situation, as Mike Schultz has said, is going to be strictly defensive for the Padres. And if you get any type of offensive production out of them, you're really it's like icing on the cake. Now, when you look at the rest of the lineup, I love Fernando in the leadoff spot. There's people in the chat going, well, what about all the solo home runs? The thing with Fernando batting leadoff, aside from his first at bat, it doesn't even matter, because it's going to be a different situation coming up every single time. And you go, well, he needs to be driving in runs. Guys getting on base in front of him is not in Fernando's control. He can't control how many guys get on base in front of him. If there's guys on base and he can get it, if he can drive them in, great. If not, you know what? You got a dynamic player that can steal bags, and that brings a lot of concerns for defenses and pitching staffs. I mean, you get a leadoff home run out of Fernando Tatis Jr. up 1-0 in the first inning. If he gets a base hit and he's on first base, now all of a sudden pitcher's got to deal with Fernando at first, potentially swiping second, or just doing a bunch of crazy Fernando things we've seen him do. I mean, Fernando doesn't even know what he's doing sometimes on the base pass. You'll watch him take off, come back, not get picked off because he can slide in a bunch of different directions. So you got a guy like that on first base. The pitcher, instead of worried about Luis Arraez batting second, he's more worried about Fernando at first base. I don't necessarily know about Arraez being in the 2 spot, and obviously Mike Schultz going to mix this up a little bit. I like seeing Arraez 3 if he's not going to bat leadoff. I like having Merrill in the 2 spot, but right now with the lefty matchup, I think that's a big reason why Merrill's lower in the order. But if you go with Fernando leadoff, and then you go Merrill 2, and then you go Arise, now you got back-to-back lefties, I'd go Machado 4. I mean, you could do some serious damage with some speed with the first 2 guys in the batting order, Fernando and Jackson Merrill. I mean, those guys are going to get on more times than not. And what is more terrifying to you as a defense, Luis Arise up with nobody on base or Luis Arise up with multiple guys on base? I mean, I've seen it multiple times where when the Padres used to play the Marlins, if Arise came up and there's nobody on base, who cares? Guy's got to get a single. He's going to be on first base, like a walk. But Luis Arise would come up a couple of times down in Miami when the Padres are playing him with either the bases loaded or a couple of guys on. You're terrified about him hitting a single that would score 2. Especially if you got guys like Merrill and Tatis. I mean, they could score from first or second easily on any type of hit from Luis Arise. The other thing with him batting second that's a little interesting is he hits the ball hard, and it's a lot up the middle, and that leads to a lot of double plays regardless of how fast the guy is in front of him. So that's and Luis isn't very fast. So from that perspective, not necessarily like him as the 2 spot, maybe the 3 if he's not going to bat leadoff. I still would rather have Fernando bat leadoff than anything else. I know the walks, everything's about walks. Well, he doesn't walk enough, but he's such a dynamic player. So those are the first couple of spots in tonight's lineup. Again, I mentioned it before, but Fernando's batting leadoff, then Arise, and then you got Machado. I think the big question with Machado, if you bat him cleanup, if you go 1, 2, 3, Manny's not coming up in the first inning, but aside from that, him batting third, him batting fourth, I don't think it really matters. I mean, the guy's you got to get guys on for Manny in that spot in the order. I think a lot of people, too, when they saw the lineup come out, were interested and curious about why Xander Bogaerts was batting cleanup. I mean, if you look at your cleanup hitters, I mean, you could have had Yuli Gurriel there, and there's still a lot of people that don't even know who Yuli Gurriel is. I mean, he's a 41-year-old that is been in the leagues for a long time. He won a batting title in 2021. He's one of Manny's friends. They brought him in. He hit really well in spring training. And it really was an interesting decision that they decided to go with Yuli Gurriel over the local product in Connor Joe. Now, I don't think the local factor is really part of the decision. Connor Joe had options left. But the thing that was interesting that we talked about earlier in the week in the show was how much more you can get out of Connor Joe compared to Yuli Gurriel, just with his youth and the fact that he's actually outplayed Yuli the last couple of years. So I thought that was a very surprising move. But, if you could catch lightning in the bottle with some veterans, all of a sudden it changes the dynamic of this Padres season. So interesting to see Yuli Gurriel. People were going, well, why are they batting him? Why are they batting him, in the opening day lineup? If the guy's going to be on the team, he's going to play. He's not going to be up on the team just to sit on the bench, especially when you got a left-hander on the mound and the right-handed hitting Yuli Gurriel. He was definitely going to play over Sheets today, who's a left-handed hitter, which leads to why probably Merrill's in the 5 spot instead of a little bit higher in the order. I mean, we saw Merrill bat 3 all spring training. I don't know if I like Merrill in the 3 spot as much, but you know what? They're going to bat him a little bit lower in the order to deal with Chris Sale, and we'll see what the kids got against the reigning Cy Young Award winner who had a great year last year. Missed him last year in the playoffs, though. He got hurt right before the playoffs started. So Merrill in the 5 spot, Gurriel 6, Jake Cronenworth batting 7th. If anybody remembers what I said last year on opening day about Jake Cronenworth, I said, if Jake Cronenworth is batting 7th by the end of the season, you're in the playoffs. If he's not, you're probably not in the playoffs. Jake Cronenworth's a good player. I think, what he has brought to the team is great. I think he is a good contributing factor to the team. He's probably played back up to his contract that he got, which he originally did not. But World Series caliber teams and playoff caliber teams have guys like Jake Cronenworth batting 7th. They don't have him batting 4th or 5th. So the fact that he's already batting 7th now, again, I think it's the righty-lefty matchup or the lefty-lefty situation there with Jake. That's a lot better 7 spot than you were expecting at the beginning of the season. Brandon Lockridge gets the start today. Brandon Lockridge got acquired by the Padres for Enyel de los Santos at the trade deadline last year. I mean, what a steal that's been so far for A.J. Preller. And hopefully Brandon Lockridge can have a good day today. But same thing. People are asking, why isn't Jason Hayward starting against the lefty matchup? Brandon Lockridge, a right-handed hitter. He's got some speed in the outfield, can steal bases. He had a great spring, hitting for a high average. I think Brandon Lockridge might be a major key to this season and the Padres being successful. And I like Brandon Lockridge getting the start today, and that was expected with the fact that they were going to go with Chris Sales, the left-hander. So Tatis bats leadoff, Arias is second, Machado third, Xander Bogaerts cleanup, Jackson Merrill bats fifth, Yuli Gurriel sixth, Jake Cronenworth seventh, Brandon Lockridge eighth, and Elias Diaz bats ninth, and that's your opening day lineup for the San Diego Padres. This lineup's going to change a lot. In fact, when you walk around, down in the catacombs of the stadium as a media member, when I walk around through going to get interviews or going to the clubhouse, they have every single opening day roster, posted as part of the tradition at Petco Park, which I'm sure they had back at the Q. And you look at some of the opening day lineups and you go through and you go, that guy didn't even finish the season with the Padres. Or I thought so-and-so played for the Padres that year. You ended up not getting him to the deadline. And the playoff roster and the roster at the end of the year is going to be drastically different than the first day. But again, opening day, exciting times here. We're out here at Baja Rick's having a good time. 176th Avenue across from the Hard Rock. We're leading you up to the Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt live from the loft. Chris Sale, Michael King, pitching matchup today as we got the first game of 2025 about to get underway at about 1 o'clock. So should be a fun time. If you're heading down to the ballpark early, come down to Baja Rick's, come say hi, come hang out with us. We're going to be giving away a Xander Bogaerts bobblehead here in the next segment. And we're also going to be giving away a signed Randy Vasquez baseball that we'll be giving away at the end of the show. And so a lot of prizes that you can sign up for and a fun time here at Baja Rick's. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show. When we come back, we have some clubhouse sound for you, some of the players meeting with the media before this afternoon's game. Plus, we'll look at the opening day roster, not just the lineup, and start talking about some of the games coming up later on today as well, besides the San Diego Padres game. We're just getting started on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:34 on a opening day Thursday here in the Gas Lamp in beautiful San Diego, California. A little bit of cloud cover, but it's not too bad out here at Baja Ricks. Got a great crowd on hand today here at Baja Ricks. We get you ready for Padres baseball coming up at 1 o'clock. Sam Levitt and the Padres pregame show will get started at about 12:10 or so, live from the loft inside of Petco Park as we get you ready for Chris Sale going against Michael King of the San Diego Padres. We've gone over the lineup a couple of times, and Fernando Tatis Jr. batting leadoff, followed by Luis Arraez. I love seeing Fernando get in the box to start a ball game out for the San Diego Padres. We've talked about that a lot. We've had a lot of players already start to meet with the media as we have that earlier start time. It's pretty cool to be out here a little bit earlier than usual because of opening day start times. We've had those later starts where you have that kind of early morning presence, and then people try to sneak in and get some work in, and then they come back for the afternoon. But we've had a lot of great people here stay out and pack Baja Ricks. There's a couple people that talking to earlier that took the train down from Oceanside, then jumped on the trolley. They heard that 97.3 The Fan was going to be at Baja Ricks, so they had to come out and hang out with us. We really appreciate that. Other people driving around and listening to us on the way in. Again, thanks again for tuning in. Everybody that's on YouTube, we really appreciate you guys jumping on as well. Again, be sure to give us a like on the YouTube page and comment how many wins you think the Padres are going to get. I went with 86 earlier in the week. I'm going to go with 94 now. I'm going to be a little overzealous about the Padres. Let's have some higher expectations, if you will. It's going to be a tough league to compete against in the National League, but the Padres in the roster, we'll see what we got in the first weekend. And again, this weekend, as Ben Higgins mentioned, and I totally agree, even if they get swept this weekend, which I don't think is going to be the case, nor do I want that to be the case, Padres are still in a good spot. They're still in a good spot at the beginning of the year. And it always brings up the question of how early is too early, or how early is early in Major League Baseball, where you could say it's still early. I think it's important to understand that these games still count in the standings just as much as the games do at the end of the season. So you can't dig yourself in too much of a hole, and it's imperative to the Padres to get off to a good start. Obviously, they're already down a game in the standings to the Los Angeles Dodgers, who took 2 games from Chicago in Japan. So at that point in time, as I said, if you get to September and you're within 5 or 6 games of the division, you could start circling the division and trying to play for it. But you got to be focused on Arizona. You got to be focused on the Mets. You got to be focused on Philly, to some extent Atlanta, and you got to be focused on maybe the Giants. I don't know too many contenders in the Central. We'll see how the first weekend plays out. But I like the way the Padres are set up. I like the lineup today, and I'm excited to get in the ballpark and check out some Padres baseball. Now, that being said, we do have some players that are meeting with the media right now, and one of them being the captain of the Padres and the leader of this Padres organization, and Manny Machado. And here's Manny Machado before today's game as he gets ready for opening day.
What are you most excited about this particular ball club this year coming into the season? Just the work ethic that we got, man. We're going to go out there and compete and have a good time like we did last year. There's still some unfinished business that we did and that we didn't accomplish. And, we're going to continue to, thrive to try to achieve that.
Message to the Friday faithful.
Excited. It's an exciting year, and we're excited to get it going and start off the year in front of the best fan base in baseball. So I think opening day in San Diego is one of the best ones. So looking forward to today.
How hungry are the guys in this clubhouse after the sort of postseason run that you guys had last season?
Yeah, like I said, it's some unfinished business that we gotta do and take care of, and everyone here is excited to come back and compete. We all miss each other throughout the year. I think we built such a great relationships and such a great bond overall. So to kind of just be all together in one clubhouse again for a long season, it's gonna be fun, man. This is a family, and we're excited to be here.
Facing the reigning NL Cy Young Award winner and Chris Sale today, how do you go about preparing for a guy like that in Game 1?
I mean, it's day one. You're facing everyone, right? You're facing all the horses at all time, and he's obviously one of the best pitchers to pitch our game in the last decade. And I've been lucky enough to face him a few times, and he's a competitor out there. He's going to go out there and compete, and he's going to give it his all. So we got our hands full today, but we got to go out there and just try to compete as much as he is.
Any advice maybe for a young guy like Brandon Lockridge making his first opening day start?
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's nervous, right? He's probably nervous a little bit, but once the game starts, I think it kind of just calms down. But just go out there and enjoy it, man. Just take it all in, enjoy it, and soak it in. I think, like I said, opening day here in San Diego is special, and to go out there, just take it all in, man. It gives you goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps right now. So, just take it in and just enjoy it as much as you can, because you don't know how many you can get, and some are lucky enough to get a lot or get a few, but to be here is a privilege every single year, so you never take it for granted. For me, it's always like my first one, so just enjoy it.
Just enjoy it is what Manny said. Enjoy the opening day. It's a big day for all these players too. I mean, opening day is one of those days for Major League Baseball players that makes them feel like a kid again. And wearing that, that Little League jersey or that travel ball jersey for the first time, being able to toe the line. I mean, everything that the Padres players are doing today is what you do on opening day at Little League, right? So this is a cherished time for a lot of these guys. It's so important for a lot of them to not only make an opening day roster as a major accolade in their baseball career, but also get an opening day start. And these guys all know that it's not a given every single time and every single year that you're going to get an opening day start and an opening day look. And these guys cherish those moments all the time. And Manny's excited. I mean, he talked to, he mentioned, what kind of advice would you give a guy like Brandon Lockridge? And we're going to hear from Brandon Lockridge here in a second. But when you talk about the Padres in spring training, if you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok and on Twitter, you can follow me at _SURP for more content. Some of the videos that I've put out have been about that, mindset and mentality, right? And that's half the battle, especially at a professional level for professional athletes. And right now the Padres are saying all the right things. Now they have to go out there and do the right things as well. But with some of the veteran leadership that you get now at Manny, I think Manny every single year has matured more and more and more, from what he was for that rental season as a Dodger, but also from what he was in Baltimore. And he learned from some of the great, veterans in his clubhouse in Baltimore, one of them being a San Diego kid and Adam Jones. And he's used that now, and he has gone from, the kid that was worried about himself to now being the player that is looking out for everybody else on his team, taking young players under his wing, being that leader and that veteran presence that the Padres need. And it starts with him. I mean, he has the biggest contract for the Padres. He's the guy that they're going to look to. He's the one that's been here relatively the longest with guys like Fernando. And we talked about that culture that the Padres are trying to build, right? Because they didn't really have one until they started bringing in these players. And you're starting to see it more and more with guys like Joe Musgrove. I think Joe Musgrove being part of the organization is such a huge hit for the Padres. Aside from him throwing a no-hitter and being a good player on the mound, what he brings from the whole connection of the team to the city of San Diego is huge. It's so huge. He understands the importance of a lot of things in San Diego. He understands what it's like growing up here, and he understands the sense of community. And with him and his Club 44 and really establishing a culture for the Padres that's going to set them up long term. It takes years to get to the level that, the team up north has gotten to. That they didn't build that in the night. And the Padres are working on that right now, with this veteran leadership. Even guys like Jason Hayward, I thought he said some great things during spring training. I mean, he's open. Again, you're bringing in veterans that are just trying to continue their careers and try to help out as much as they can, help the young guys out. And I know that's probably going to be the case right now with Brandon Lockridge as he gets a opening day start. Now, some people in the chat were like, is Brandon Lockridge going to start all the time for the Padres? Probably not. He's going to start against left-handers as a right-handed hitter, especially with Jason Hayward, being up there in years and everything like that. And kind of on the tail end of his career. Whatever type of production you can get out of Hayward is great. You have him for that leadership standpoint as well in the clubhouse. but guys like Brandon Lockridge are going to, platoon a little bit out there in left field. I mean, you probably got one of the fastest outfields in baseball today on opening day with Lockridge and Merrill and Tatis. That's going to be a no-fly zone out there. But, again, to answer some people's questions in the chat about Lockridge's playing time, it's going to be a lot of platooning, and it's going to be playing against left-handers. And that's going to be the deal for Lockridge. But what a great opportunity for him today to not only make an opening day roster, which he was set out to do, and they talked to Lockridge earlier in the week when they found out he was going to make the team. He got a taste of being in the big leagues last year at the end of the Padres season and into the playoffs. He got to pinch run a little bit. He didn't get too many at-bats, but he said he was told it's not hard to get to the majors, it's hard to stay in the majors. And when he had that taste, he didn't want to not have that taste anymore, so he worked his ass off during the offseason. He put in the time. He went and showed it in spring training. He hit for a high average. He did everything the Padres asked for, because that was the one thing about Brandon Lockridge for the Padres. They told him, look, we're going to need you to hit a little bit more consistently if you want to be up here with us. And he went out there and did it in spring training. He earned his way onto the roster, and now he earned his way in the starting lineup today against Chris Sale. Brandon Lockridge met with the media before today's game. Here's what Brandon had to say about not only making the opening day roster, but making that opening day lineup today.
Brandon, during spring training, we talked about the opportunity you had to make the Padres opening day roster, and now you fast forward to March 27th on this opening day, and here you are inside the Padres clubhouse. What does it mean to you to get this opportunity?
It's such an honor. The day I got told, it was a surreal feeling, a lot of mixed emotions that went into it, and I'm just super thankful to be here and be able to tee it up with these guys today.
How do you view your role and the opportunity you have? What do you want to bring to this team on an everyday basis?
Yeah, I think I just want to get out there and use my abilities, right? So speed, offense, defense, whatever I have that day, I'm going to give it my all and, try to help this team score one more run than the other team. So
when you have your name introduced in front of the crowd, run out towards that first base line to line up, what do you anticipate the emotions feeling like?
I think I'm already getting those as I was told yesterday and I was starting today. I've kind of the nerves have settled in, and I think that's going to be a pretty awesome moment that I'll never forget.
What kind of preparation goes into facing a guy in the mound, Chris Sale, reigning NL Cy Young Award winner, opening day, tough test?
Yeah, definitely. I think the prep we do for every pitcher, I think it shouldn't change based on the guy. Chris Sale's a pretty good one to get to face first day of the season, first opening day. So, we're going to be ready and try to go out there and give it our best shot.
Well, Brandon, congratulations on a great spring and making this opening day roster. Good luck today.
Thank you so much.
God, Brandon Lockridge is such a kid to root for, and the Padres got a lot of guys that you can root for, right? I mean, you got the young stars that we always know about and the everyday stars for the Padres, but I'm excited to watch Brandon Lockridge play. Getting him at the trade deadline last year might be a very sneaky move for A.J. Preller. I mean, they shipped off Enyel De Los Santos for Brandon Lockridge. I mean, Enyel De Los Santos was almost throwing BP every time he came in to pitch in the bullpen. I mean, I remember the last game that I watched Enyel De Los Santos pitch in person was a Saturday night here at Petco Park where Enyel De Los Santos gave up a grand slam to Teoscar Hernandez. That was the only game they lost to the Dodgers that weekend series. And he continued to struggle. He got sent off to New York because New York was desperate for pitching like they are right now. And you got Brandon Lockridge back. And then they DFA'd Enyel De Los Santos within like a week and a half of having him in the pinstripes. So you went from a guy that you probably would have cut yourself to now having a starting left fielder for the Padres who's under control for a long time, who is a young player, who is fast and has hits for a high average. I mean, this might be the steal of the century if he could go out there and play at a high level. You look at the Padres payroll, you look at, the money that they had already spent, right? I mean, that was the case. Again, regardless of who was going to be the control person of the team, they've already spent the money that they had to spend, and this is the core roster that they have. In order to balance out some of these big contracts, you need young guys to step up on rookie deals and on first-year deals in order to balance out that Bogarts contract and that Manny contract and maybe in the future that Fernando contract. Those are the players that are going to help out for the San Diego Padres. You need it, if you could strike it rich with Brandon Lockridge, your roster dynamic drastically changes. I'm excited to watch this kid play. I think it's going to be fun to watch him play all year. Now, day one against Chris Sale, that's kind of a tough animal to ask Brandon Lockridge to go out there and perform. But, I think Lockridge can have a sneaky good season. I'm looking forward to watching him play. Talk about some of the other bench guys. I mean, we didn't really talk about Jose Iglesias too much. Jose Iglesias, a guy that has always hit for a high average, that plays every infield position very well, defensive replacement. He's kind of like that Ha-Seong Kim kind of player that you were looking for in terms of, trying to fill his void. And I think he's going to do even better than that. I mean, he's always hit for a high average. In fact, he was with the organization a couple of years ago. He was down in El Paso, hitting over 280 for the Padres. They never brought him up. I don't know why. And then he goes on to play for the New York Mets last year. He had a great season with the Mets. Again, he's up there in age. But he's going to hit. And he's not going to hit for power, but he's going to get some base hits. He's going to be great defensively. That's a great bench piece for San Diego to pick up a guy like Jose Iglesias, to mix with the speed of Brandon Lockridge, to add with some veteran presence, with a guy like Yuli Gurriel. I don't know how long Yuli's going to stick with the team, but if he sticks with the team for a long time, the Padres are going to be in really good shape. Gavin Sheets had a great spring training. I mean, it was fun to watch him go out there and earn a spot. Gavin Sheets, same thing. That's another guy that's fun, that's going to be great, fun to root for. Padres are always, finding these players that are so easy to root for. You're not going to see Sheets today unless it's late in the game, maybe as a pinch hitter against the right-hander, but he's going to start against righties as a designated hitter. You're going to see him in the starting lineup against right-handed pitching, and he's that power bat. And so when you talk about his ability to play first base, he can play corner outfield spots, and he is a DH. The biggest problem the Padres have had the last couple of years have been a power-hitting first baseman. I don't necessarily think that, Sheets is going to hit 30 home runs. With playing time, he'll probably hit a decent amount. But if you could get 20 home runs out of Sheets, which is a high asking, and you get a couple out of Luis Arraez, like the 5, you got 25, almost 30 home runs out of your first base position, which you haven't had in a long time. That kind of Moneyball algorithm philosophy of trying to replace certain players. And maybe that's what leads to getting more power at first base. It's a fun time on opening day. We got a lot of great people here at Baja Ricks. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show. We're taking you up to 12:04 technically today, as we got to get you ready for the pregame show with Sam Levitt. He'll be live in the loft. And then after that, obviously Padres baseball on 97.3 The Fan, followed up by Chris Ello and Matt Scraby. They'll be doing the show after the postgame show. So they'll have the postgame show. I got the pregame show. We're going to get a lot more sound coming from the clubhouse. I know AJ Preller is meeting with the media relatively quickly here, and we'll try to pass along as much information out of AJ as we can. Again, we got some clubhouse sound already from Brandon Lockridge and Manny Machado talking about this 4-game series. And when we come back in the next hour, we're going to start previewing some of the Major League Baseball, right? We're going to start talking about the American League. We'll talk about the National League. There's a lot of good teams in the National League this year. I think they're flat out better than the American League across the board. And the competition for playoff spots is going to be tough for not only the San Diego Padres, but also, for the Braves in the National League East. I got Padres stand here. Great. But, for the overall look at the Padres this year, again, I want to get to your win totals and how many wins you think the Padres will get. Somebody dropped in the chat 100. That would be insane. That'd be awesome. If the Padres can win as many as they did in 98, that would be awesome. I don't necessarily think they're at that level with the team that they have this year compared to the team that they had last year. But I still think they're going to win 86 games to 94, I think, is their range. I had the ceilings at 94. They got to take care of business against some bad teams if they want to get to 94 wins. You can't let Colorado come in here and take 3 from you at Petco Park. You can't go up to the Big A and lose 3 games. You can't go to Sacramento in a week and a half and lose multiple games to the A's. Don't call us the Sacramento A's. We're just the A's. That's like the crazy colleges now that tell me in the game notes when I do games, oh, we're not Cal State Northridge anymore. We're CSUN. Cal State Northridge, not CSUN. Not Cal Irvine, or UC Irvine, exactly. It's good to have Sushi Sham in the audience. For everybody that sees him in the chat, he's here. He's out here supporting. My buddy Perez is here as well. So a lot of people that I usually see on YouTube from the chat come by and said hi. If you're heading down to Petco Park, please come down to Baja Rick's. Come say hi. They got great deals on beer and everything like that, as well as Blowfish Tequila, giving away some samples to try right here next to me. So that's fun. We're going to be giving away a Xander Bogaerts bobblehead as we go to break in this hour. And then in the next hour, we got a signed Randy Vasquez baseball that we're going to give away as well. We're 1 hour in, 1 hour to go as we get you ready for Padres baseball. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show live from Baja Rick's on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Happy opening day to everybody out there listening on 97.3 The Fan. Everybody here at Baja Rick's. Place is wedged for Padres baseball. Happy opening day as the Padres get ready for their 4-game series against the Atlanta Braves. Chris Sale on the hill today for Atlanta, going against the San Diego Padres' Michael King. Michael King getting his first opening day start. A honor for him that he is cherishing, obviously, and a well-deserved opportunity for what Michael King has done for the San Diego Padres last year and what he did in spring training. I mean, at a certain point last year, he was your best pitcher, going into the postseason where you needed a guy, and he is the starting pitcher today for the San Diego Padres. We talked about the Padres lineup. Well, the guy stepping in the box to start the game today is Jurickson Profar for the Atlanta Braves. So former friends Jurickson Profar will have the first at-bat for the Atlanta Braves against the San Diego Padres. Yesterday was pretty funny. They asked Jackson Merrill about Jurickson Profar being in the other dugout. And Jackson was like, I'm going to chirp him a bit, but not too much. You know what happens when you chirp Jurickson. And then he went on to say, yeah, he's on that team now. We got new guys here. We're focused on this and just going to go out there and have a good time playing baseball. But, we'll see what type of reaction Jurickson gets. I mean, obviously he wanted to stay here in San Diego. Couldn't make it work, so now he's in Atlanta. I would imagine he gets a pretty good ovation as we welcome him back to Petco Park, and then hopefully he punches out and doesn't hit a double or anything like that to get the season started for Atlanta. But Jurickson Profar will start things off for Atlanta. It will be Austin Riley batting second, Olson's batting third, Osuna 4, Albies 5, Michael Harris the second, 6. Baldwin, their new up-and-coming catcher, is going to be the starting catcher today for Atlanta. And then they go Orlando Arcia and then Jared Kelnick. And that's a pretty good lineup for the Atlanta Braves. And we'll talk about the National League in the next segment. But the Atlanta Braves, I think, that's a team that's going to win the National League East. I mean, you're going to open up the season with the favorite to win the NL East. I think they've done way better of a job this offseason than Philly. And even though the Mets got Juan Soto, they got more holes than Atlanta does. I mean, Atlanta was an exceptional team last year in Major League Baseball, and they got hurt, but they're getting guys back. Acuna is going to miss the first, month or so of the season, so you don't have to deal with Acuna this weekend, which is good news for the Padres. But once he comes back, that's a major upgrade for Atlanta. And then after that, they're going to get Spencer Strider back. They wanted to ease Spencer Strider back into the rotation. That guy in one of his second to last start in spring training shoved for 9 strikeouts. The guy looked unhittable and looked like he should be the opening day starter for Atlanta. But instead, they're going to play it safe with Spencer Strider. He's going to start on the injured list. They're going to work him back at a general pace. And so that's another player that you don't have to worry about this weekend if you're the San Diego Padres. It's imperative to get off to a great start if you're San Diego this year, especially, with the competition you're going to have to deal with in the National League. I mean, the Braves, we talked about, their division's going to be a absolute gauntlet and a dogfight to win the NL East. And then the other two teams are going to be vying for wild card spots, which you're going to have to be vying with them as the San Diego Padres. And I don't want to say the division's out of reach because it never is, and we'll see what happens at the end of the season. But those are the teams that you have to compete with. It's Arizona, it's Philly, it's New York. It might be Atlanta if they don't take care of business in their own division. I mean, those are teams that you're going to have to compete with. Maybe San Francisco, maybe Cincinnati. I think Chicago might be in the mix for their division. Milwaukee. I mean, these are teams that the Padres have to be focused on and definitely have to do a lot better against this season than other teams that they go against. Again, I've been asking everybody today how many wins you think the Padres are going to get. If you want to comment on that, put it in the YouTube chat. If you're on YouTube, again, thanks to all of you that have jumped on. Be sure to give us a like on YouTube and leave your comment of how many wins you think the Padres are going to get. I had them at around 94. I think that's a little high. So anywhere between 86 to 94 is kind of my range. But it's going to be tough in the division. It's going to be tough in the National League, and it's going to be a gauntlet for the San Diego Padres because how good the National League is. I mean, the Los Angeles Dodgers went out there and loaded up on their roster, and it has made every other team in the National League have to keep pace with LA. and they've done a pretty good job of that. But I'm excited for Padres baseball. I love the crowd here. I love everybody wearing their Padres stuff today. I was driving down early this morning to get down here in time for the show and have enough time to watch Ben and Woods a little bit. And I already ran into a handful of people wearing Padres gear around town. I mean, opening day is such a great experience for a lot of people. I'm not going to say their names, but a couple of kids that I coach at Cathedral were out here today. Hopefully they called out sick at school. I'm sure there's a handful of kids playing hooky today, just like a lot of us adults out there playing hooky from our jobs to go out to opening day. Yeah, there you go. We got a couple over here playing hooky to not I'm not going to work today. I'm a little under the weather. We got opening day today. So it's great to see everybody out here at the ballpark. A little bit earlier of a start. I mean, I prefer the 5:40s, but 1:10 on opening day. I feel like opening day's got to be almost a day game anyway. And I know everybody keeps talking about how, it needs to be a national holiday. I think it needs to be a national holiday for sure. We'll have some games starting up at about noon. We're part of the early crew of games today. We'll have some other games on later tonight in Major League Baseball. And then, of course, we got March Madness on tonight as well. So we got a lot to break down, on tomorrow's show, hopefully recapping a Padres victory. AJ Preller met with the media. We just got some of that sound. We're going to break that up and talk about it when we come back. But I do want to talk a little bit about the American League, give you a little preview of what to expect for the American League this year. In the American League East, right now the big favorite to win the AL East are the Boston Red Sox. They seem to be everybody's favorite right now to win the American League East. They went and got Garrett Crochet from Chicago. They made a big deal, to improve their pitching. I'm sure they're going to try to make another improvement of their pitching near the trade deadline. But I think the Red Sox probably come in first. Baltimore, again, really relying on their youth, but haven't, made enough of a splash in the offseason. Haven't spent any money on starting pitching to be able to, I think, compete with Boston. And, they haven't won a playoff series since 2012. It's been a long time since Baltimore's won a playoff series. I think Baltimore probably comes in second behind Boston, maybe by a game. I think the Yankees are going to fall off a little bit. I mean, they got some injuries early. Three-fifths of their starting rotations already on the injured list. They're really a shell of themselves from last year. They lost Juan Soto to Queens. He's now playing for the New York Mets. You go through the rest of the lineup. I mean, Giancarlo Stanton is already banged up. That guy's hurt every single year. So that protection for Judge is a little bit different than it's been in the past. I got them coming in third. I don't know what Toronto's going to do. I mean, Toronto's got to deal with whether or not they're going to bring back Vlad Guerrero Jr. I mean, Vlad wants like $500 to almost $600 million. I don't know about Toronto being able to do that. I don't know if Toronto is going to be able to re-sign Vlad during the offseason. I don't think they're going to have that great of a year either. I think they come in fourth. And then Tampa, I don't know how Tampa is going to be able to make it to the season playing in the humidity of day games and outdoors at a minor league ballpark and having to deal with rain all the time, not playing in a climate-controlled, facility. Now, the home runs for Tampa might be increased because they're playing at George Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, which houses the New York Yankees. And what a lot of teams have done in the Grapefruit League is they have modeled their spring training facilities like their major league facilities. And so you got a short porch in right field in Tampa. I mean, you're going to see a lot of home runs for the Tampa Bay Rays. Rays pitching's not going to like their new ballpark, I'll tell you that. But I don't think the Rays are going to have that great of a season. That being said, I don't know if anybody saw John Gruden posted a video for the Rays today. It was hilarious. Guy's getting super fired up for Rays baseball. They're either going to take down the Yankees and the Red Sox. He might be disappointed at the end of the year. In the American League Central, I think the Royals with Bobby Witt Jr. and a lot of the pieces that they have brought in, Seth Lugo, being one of those, pitchers for the Royals that they got from San Diego. Seth Lugo was great here, but even more so now. Lugo has done a good job with Kansas City. They brought in Jonathan India as well. I think that's a nice little pickup for KC. You got to have to, get some production out of guys like Hunter Renfroe, former Padre as well. But the Royals, I think, are the favorite in the Central. I think Detroit's going to have a good year in the Central Division as well. I got them coming in second. Twins, probably an average year in third. Not a lot of love for the Cleveland Guardians this year, and we get to welcome them into town on Monday. I mean, they got Bybee, which is good. and he's a local guy out of Southern California. He's making the opening day start for Cleveland today. And he's lined up to pitch on Wednesday against the Padres on the Wednesday day game. But I don't really see it with Cleveland this year. And then you get to the White Sox. White Sox got a lot of youth. And I think the White Sox are going to be a little bit better just because they got Will Venable as their manager now. Our former friend Will Venable, Padre product, who has gone on to be a great coach for the Texas Rangers, now a manager of the Chicago White Sox. I think he might turn things around a little bit for Chicago, but I don't think it's going to be that much better. They don't have a lot of talent over there. They got a lot of young players, a lot of young local players from San Diego on the Chicago White Sox, but other than that, they really don't have a lot going on for them. And it's probably going to be another miserable year on the south side of Chicago. Out west, I think Texas is going to bounce back. We'll see what Jacob deGrom's got. I mean, that guy gets hurt a lot, but there's a big reason why Texas brought him in. They got a good pitching staff. They got good power bats. They added Jock Peterson in the offseason, which I think is going to help the ball club out a lot. I like Texas to win the West. Houston, obviously losing Alex Bregman, him going to Boston. I think they come in second. Seattle's been kind of okay. The Athletics, I think, are going to be better. We talked to Scott Miller yesterday about the A's. I think they're going to be better, but they're still not going to be that great. They went out and spent a little money. But the thing with the A's, though, the A's are copying the Chargers playbook of, trying to, gut the team and then move and then try to show their fans, hey, look, we spend money. Hey, look, this is all the cool stuff that you like. They're going to go with the Kelly Green jerseys a lot. I mean, that's such a spit in the face of the fans of Oakland. That's the same thing the Spanos family did with the Chargers. They refused to go to the powder blue, refused to go to the powder blue, refused to go to the powder blue. They moved to L.A. Hey, look, here's our primary jersey. Look how cool our blue jerseys are. Come on. Joke. That's such a low blow, A's. Don't call us Sacramento. We're just the A's. That being said, they'll still be better than the Halos. Halos are awful. I don't know what the Angels are doing. I don't know what they can do. They have the mess of Anthony Rendon for another year. Rendon's still making more money than Trout. Guy never plays. Guy never wants to play. Mike Trout, poor guy, is trying to carry the Angels by himself. And by carrying the Angels on his back, he keeps hurting himself. And he can't make it through a season. They got some young players. They cut Mickey Moniak. I thought that was odd. The La Costa Canyon kid, got DFA'd by the Angels. Rockies picked him up on a major league contract. I mean, I don't know what the Angels are doing. They're going to be awful. The Los Angeles Angels. I got them coming in last. So as of right now, our division winners: Boston, Kansas City, Texas. I got Baltimore, Detroit, and Houston all making the postseason. And right now, I got the Texas Rangers and the Boston Red Sox, being the two teams, I think, in the ALCS. And then give me the Red Sox in the World Series. That's how I see the American League playing out. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the National League. Plus, A.J. Preller met with the media here in town. Hear what A.J.'s got to say before opening day. We're here at Baja Rick's at 176th Avenue across from the Hard Rock. A lot of great fans out here today. A lot of local supporters of 97.3. We even got our biggest fan here today, Rod, who won the biggest fan competition. He's here. A lot of people that I see in the YouTube chat every day. It's a fun time. We're leading you up to first pitch at the Padres pregame show coming at 12. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Live from Baja Rick's, the Braden Surprenant Show. We're here at 176th Avenue across from the Hard Rock. Downtown is starting to really get loaded up right now with tons of Padres fans. They're pouring off the trolley, getting dropped off by Ubers. The parking lines are getting super packed already as we get you ready for the Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt. He'll be taking over for me, not here, but up in the loft in the Western Metal Supply Company building in Petco Park. And then, of course, Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. will get the coverage started as we wait for Jerickson Profar to step into the box against Michael King for the first at-bat of the 2025 season. A lot has changed since a year ago, but and I know a lot of people are upset that Jerickson Profar is not with the club anymore. I am too. Maybe he'll have a terrible start to the year and get DFA'd like he did in Colorado. We can bring him back. I don't think that's going to be the case. Jerickson Profar had a really good year last year. It's going to be tough to see him don a different uniform again. He's had so much success in a Padres uniform. But the thing with Jerickson, it's funny. I seen a lot of different people from the chat. Again, Rod, who won the biggest fan. He posted a fun video of finding out he won the biggest fan contest, and he'll be at he won the trip to the Odyssey Suite, which is going to be super cool for him and his friends and everybody that he promised tickets for in the chat. Did he get a special shout out to Dottie, whose birthday it is today on opening day? Happy birthday to Dottie. Mine was last week. Yeah, there you go. Happy birthday. Nice. And then I saw my guy Kirk, who holds court out there in left field. And you usually see him. He's the guy that he's the crying Cowboys fan on ESPN that Stephen A. Smith makes fun of a lot of times. He's a San Diego guy. Great guy. I know he's got some people on Padres Twitter probably don't like him, but he's a nice guy. And I asked him about the chirp. They get a chirp Profar because he always chirps the left fielder. I mean, he's constantly chirping at Jesse Winker when he shows up, which is great, by the way. I love that he does that. But I said, you going to chirp Profar like Jackson Merrill's going to do a little bit? And he said, yeah, I'll talk a little bit, but I'm going to ease him into it. He knows who I am. All right, Kirk. All right, buddy. We're excited for Padres baseball today and opening day in the 2025 season. Sun started to come out, which is great. Get a little spring weather, get a little taste of summer action here in America's finest city. But we're also excited for what the season can bring, and obviously hope springs eternal here. And we talked about how many wins you think the Padres are going to get. I got the 86 to 94 range. That's not really a gut number, so I'm going to go with 94 just to be a little bit extra optimistic. My initial gut feeling said 86. I went through the schedule last night. I found 94 wins, and that's including, some hiccups here and there against, teams like Colorado and the Angels and teams that they, Padres played down to their competition a couple of times. But I think it's very important to get off to a good start this year if you're the Padres. It'd be great to get a win today. But again, today is not the end-all, be-all of the season, right? I don't think the Padres won last year on opening day, and they ended up having a great year. And they were they were 500 through 100 games, and they turned it around. So at what point, is the notion of it's still early wear off? I think all these games matter, and you have to rack up wins early just as much as late. But you can't just be overreacting to the season in the first couple of weeks or so. Can't just sit there and be like, oh, it's over week one, or getting in line for playoff tickets after a first weekend series against the Atlanta Braves. I mean, you're starting off with two pretty good teams, two playoff caliber teams in the first 7 games of the season, and then you got a road trip to Chicago, and then you got to go to Sacramento, and you get to play at the minor league ballpark up there in Sacramento. It's a good time to play them before it starts getting hot up there in Sacktown. A.J. Preller met with the media before today's game to talk about the 2025 season. We got a couple of clips of A.J. Preller, and let's hear from what the general manager and the president of the team had to say about the Padres in 2025.
Can you share with us a little bit what went into some of those final decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have tough decisions, So I think part of it, each individual decision a little bit different, but I think it's a long season, so I think you get caught up in, one day. I think for us, we were looking, hey, let's keep depth. You're always looking at, players that bring different skill set and give Mike and the staff an opportunity to have a versatile roster. Right-left balance, ultimately, experience, some youth, some energy. So think we tried to line it up that way. I think the good news, though, overall for us is we're going to have good options throughout. So, we're not going to be, married to one form of the roster. This is how we decided to break with it. And we'll get into the season. And if we need to make adjustments, we've got a lot of guys in the organization that showed in spring training that they can help us and won't be afraid to make some moves if we need to.
With some of those moves, you mentioned some of the variables that go into it. Was there a theme in general? Was the versatility maybe more important, or maybe a specific skill that a guy brought to a certain spot and coming off the bench, or was it different for each decision?
Yeah, I just think it was kind of how it all blended out together. I think that's how we always look at it from a 26 man roster. And you're constantly looking and having conversations with Schulte and the group about how would we use this player or that player, how does it fit together. It wasn't any one any one factor. Again, kind of like everybody looking at their roster status and where some guys are at, that factored in as well. Ultimately, that's how we landed on the crew that we got to today.
AJ Preller meeting with the media before today's game, talking about all the roster decisions, and it's totally true. I mean, there were so many different competitions, and it was going to be difficult decisions for the Padres going into the season. And those difficult decisions usually, breed success. Competition's going to always push guys to play a little bit harder and to battle for spots. And that's what you want in spring training. You want competition. You want some of the young guys pushing veteran players. You want bringing in veterans to make sure the young guys have to earn their spot on the team. And these difficult decisions are good decisions to have. I mean, when you have to make these decisions about players, you have a plethora of riches in your organization. There's some good baseball players that got sent down to AAA El Paso. And there's some good players that the Padres have parted ways with. I mean, Eggy Rosario, DFA'd, as well as Tyler Wade. I mean, these are two guys that have to sneak through waivers now if you want to see them back in the Padres organization. They're going to try to sneak through waivers. Hopefully they'll get picked up. If you're a Padres fan, I mean, obviously for those guys, they want to get picked up, and be on a big league club. But guys like Eggy Rosario and Tyler Wade, you were willing to part ways with those guys, in order to put the roster together that you have. You made those tough decisions of keeping Yuli Gurriel compared to having Connor Joe start at the big league club. He has to start down in AAA. You made the decision to go with the veteran in Martin Maldonado, not necessarily a big bat, but a great defensive catcher. You decide to go with him instead of that, prospects of the future that you had for so long in Luis Campusano. And for Campusano, especially in the catching position with the Padres, he's not that great defensively, but his biggest claim to fame was his bat, and he has not had a good bat the last couple of years. Last season in the spring training. So he's got to get up to that particular spot. So a lot of good players are not on this team, which means you got the best 26 right now. And the Padres did not try to finagle the roster to try to keep as many guys in the org like they have done in previous years. They're in a position now where it's win now mode. I mean, they had a Rule 5 draft pick in a bullpen piece from Baltimore. They had to give him back to Baltimore. He didn't make the team. He wasn't good enough to make the team. Instead, Omar Cruz made the team over a guy like Logan Gillespie. So we'll know within the next couple of days. Will Adams in the chat. When will we know if they clear waivers? It'll be in the next couple of days. In fact, yesterday, Brett Sullivan cleared waivers, and he's back in the Padres organization in AAA. So Brett Sullivan is still a member of the Padres org, which is good to see. Okay, again, breeding competition at the AAA level. And continuing to have a lot of tough decisions for the Padres when it comes to roster decisions. And this we talked about it already. This opening day roster is not going to be the same roster at the end of the year. It's going to take 40, 50 guys to win a pennant here in San Diego. You're going to see Randy Vasquez get multiple starts. You're going to see Kyle Hart get multiple starts. You're going to see Stephen Kolek, who went down to AAA to log innings, come up and get starts for the San Diego Padres. All of those guys are going to contribute to the Padres' success. Connor Joe is going to come up and have big at-bats for the San Diego Padres at some point during this season. All part of the roster construction and the balance of the roster that A.J. Preller's put together. And speaking of A.J. Preller, when we come back, he talks a little bit about first base and DH and the latest status on Yu Darvish. They want to keep it slow with you because they want to see him pitch later on in the season. But that affects, obviously, the rotation for the first couple of weeks. And I already mentioned you got to get off to a good start. So we'll talk about that when we come back. More AJ Preller sound. We'll preview the National League, and it's getting closer to pregame show. I mean, it's 11:30. Pregame show starts at 12:10, and we're going to be ready for Padres baseball soon. Braden Surprenant show rolls on live at Baja Rick's on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Live at Baja Rick's as we get you ready for Padres baseball on opening day here downtown in America's finest city. Sam Levitt will have the pregame show coming up at 12:10 Pacific time, live from the loft inside Petco Park. It'll be a nice to hear Sam on the radio and be ready for Padres pregame, and then Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. on the call for Chris Sale versus Michael King. And that first matchup that you're going to see in the box, Jurickson Profar stepping into the box for the Atlanta Braves to take on Michael King to get the 2025 season underway. I'm Braden Surprenant. Thanks again for tuning in to the Braden Surprenant Show. Everybody that's tuning in on 97.3 The Fan, driving down to Petco Park today, thanks again for making our day a part of yours. If you haven't done so already, you can follow me on social media at @B_SURP. We post tons of content on my social media pages, whether it be Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram and TikTok. I am active on all three of those sites, posting tons of content from the shows. If you missed anything from our shows in the last couple of days, it will be up on social media and brings a lot of different hot takes. I mean, there was one that I posted. Here's how this works. It got Tony Gwynn Jr. upset about what I said about the Aztecs. And he called me out on the radio the other day about having higher standards. He tried to say, like, we don't have the silver spoon in our mouth, coming from a Big 12 conference that TCU's from. But you know what? I got him. Got him to watch. Got him to participate. It's good to see everybody out here. Hey, what's going on? And welcome out to Baja Rick's. A lot of people standing by. We got Will Galvez in the house, who Tony Gwynn Jr. Ripped the other day on his show. I don't know what did you do again for him to get mad at you? An embarrassing loss to the Aztecs upset Tony Gwynn Jr. But that's an alumni saying it over there. That's an alumni saying it. So good to see all of you fans out there that have joined us down here at Baja Rick's. We got a lot of great info coming out of the clubhouse again from AJ Preller, looking sharp on opening day. Mike Schilt met with the media as well. We'll start playing some of those clips for you. Again, starting lineup today for the San Diego Padres, as we mentioned it earlier on the show. But they're going to go with Fernando Tatis Jr. leading things off and playing right field. Luis Arraez bats second, and he plays first base today. Manny Machado batting third, playing third. Xander Bogaerts in the cleanup spot for the Padres, plays shortstop. Jackson Merrill roaming center field, bats fifth. Yuli Gurriel gets the start as the designated hitter. He bats sixth. Jake Cronenworth will bat seventh and play second base. Brandon Lockridge batting eighth, and in left field, and Elias Diaz is the starting catcher today for the San Diego Padres. He bats ninth for San Diego. I mentioned Atlanta's lineup again. It will be Jurickson Profar to lead things off for the Braves. Austin Riley will bat second. Olsen will bat third. Osuna will bat fourth and DH. Albies at second, bats fifth, batting sixth, and in center field, Michael Harris the second. Baldwin bats seventh and catches. Orlando Arcia will play shortstop and bat eighth, and batting ninth and in right field is Jared Kelnick. That's a good lineup for the Atlanta Braves. Should be a good contest later on this afternoon. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But I do want to get back to more of what A.J. Preller has talked about today with the media. One of the questions was asked about right-handed first base and DH options and the latest timeline we have on Yu Darvish's rehab and how the back end of the starting rotation will look for the San Diego Padres. Here's A.J. Preller.
Darvish played catch yesterday. I don't know if you have a specific timeline on maybe when you might press.
I think, like Scott Hacker does a good job bringing our guys back. So, him and Darvish putting a plan together. It's still going to be day-to-day, kind of seeing how he feels. He'll start to stretch out. Yesterday, getting back on the field. He wanted to wait till he got back to Petco, give it a few days and then come back and test it yesterday. Yesterday's news was positive. He felt really good coming out of it, which is the first step. Now he'll start to progress, longer catch play. But in terms of knowing, hey, he'll be back on the mound on this day or that day, we're not at that stage yet.
What do you think it's the entire rotation now? Obviously, the last two spots going to work. Vasquez, what do you think?
Yeah, again, I think, having Cease King and Pivetta in the rotation, three guys that we're going to lean on that, obviously with Cease and King, two guys that were in the Cy Young conversation last year. It's kind of state of baseball, like all teams, no matter how much starting pitching you have. You look throughout the league, we start with 5 or 6 guys starting on the IL for us. Unfortunately, it's kind of almost expected now that your depth is going to get tested early. But it's we saw it last year with Vasquez and Waldron stepping in, and those guys played a real role in us getting to the playoffs. We're going to need others step up. Kyle Hart gets the first crack. We'll have some guys at AAA like Kolick and others that you mentioned. Gillespie that pitched well in spring training. But you're gonna need a lot of starting pitching options. We've got a lot of faith in Hart and Randy to get us started, and that's ultimately kind of an expected, honestly, today in the state of baseball from a pitching standpoint.
AJ Preller talking about the back end of that rotation. Kyle Hart, I mentioned it. I've been a big Kyle Hart supporter. I think he's going to do well for the San Diego Padres. I think he has a good opportunity to have a breakout season. Again, he's coming over from the KBO, was the best player in the KBO. Not only just the Cy Young. I mean, he was the best he was the Cy Young for the KBO. And he brings that fire and that energy. I mean, I liked everything he said in his introductory press conference with the San Diego Padres in that scrum where he talked about we a lot. And, he knew the history and tradition of the Padres. He was excited to be a part of the Padres organization, knowing that they could be successful, knowing that they can win, built for success. And then I saw the social media video, and I don't know if you guys have seen it. We tweeted it out a long time ago. But Kyle Hart, I mean, that guy didn't take anybody's S, man. I mean, he's in the dugout, and, he's not even pitching that day. And there's a little bit of some chirping back and forth between the dugout and the starting pitcher of the other team in the KBO. I mean, that guy was ready to Amir Garrett run out there and take on the whole team. I mean, that's some fire and energy that you like to see for the San Diego Padres. And I like that about Kyle Hart. I think he could be a great number 5 guy. Now, all of a sudden with you, Darvish, not being part of the rotation at the beginning part of the season, he's going to be hard. He's going to be pressed into action to be able to be the 3 or 5 starter with Randy Vasquez. And Randy Vasquez, I think, is going to have a good year. I think he's got great stuff. He's a young pitcher. He's still learning how to pitch. You know what you're going to get out of Randy Vasquez, a little bit more than Stephen Kolick. Let Kolick go down to AAA and learn a little bit more, log those innings that he needs, get back to being that starting pitcher he was with the Seattle Mariners organization. And so that's the way. And all those guys are going to be used. They're going to use all of those players throughout the entire year, as I mentioned before. Here's the decision that went it with A.J. Preller talking about why it was Kyle Hart and Randy Vasquez over Kolick for the final rotation spots, as well as the importance of this season for the Padres.
AJ, can you go a little bit more into the decision to add Hart and Randy and having Steven go down to AAA?
I think with Hart, it's, again, like left-handed is, gives us a different look. I think what we saw in spring training is that he has weapons that can play, with the sweeper cutter mix, the sneaky fastball at 90-92, got swing and miss and was able to get some, what we think have some hitters look uncomfortable at times. I think now it's going to be consistently going out every 5 days. He's also a guy that got, that went out and took on workload last year in Korea. So I think a little bit with some of the guys looking at, last year, some guys not ending, on the active roster, knowing it's going to be 162 games, we can kind of shape AAA a little bit more in terms of their workload. And with Randy, the last couple of outings, one on a backfield, one in Chicago. I think his last outing, he threw 44 pitches, 39 strikes. And just faith, it's not just what you see in 3 weeks in spring training. I think, obviously guys have track record for a reason. Randy helped us last year. I think end of the day, myself, Schulte felt like he gets the first crack, and we'll see how it goes.
A decision for A.J. Preller on the back end of the rotation. I mean, answering a lot of the questions I think a lot of Padres fans had, and I think you're okay with Randy Vasquez and Kyle Hart to start the season in that rotation. Now, that being said, I mean, I can't imagine them making it through the entire year. You're going to have to see some other, pitchers come up there and start. You never know with other injuries and stuff like that. Hopefully Darvish is back sooner rather than later. But, I think you're okay to start the season with those players. And you're going to see them, this weekend. One of them on Thursday, or one of them on Saturday, and one of them again on Monday against Cleveland. Mike Schilt also met with the media already today and talked with the San Diego Padres, the beat writers and everything about the excitement of opening day, final roster, and what went into today's lineup against Chris Sale.
About this ball club and the balanced roster that you guys were finally able to put together in the end.
Yeah, I couldn't be more pleased with this group. You mentioned a little bit of last year. It's a group that is largely intact. You're always going to have some moving pieces to a roster, but this is a group that's very close, very together, and really ready to get going.
Do you think that's one of the strengths, is sort of how united this team was last year and bringing that core group back here this year?
Yeah, I think there's no question about that. Any group, that's together and pulling on the same rope, there's a lot of power in that. It takes the whatever burdens that come along with this, we all share them, and all the celebrations are more enjoyable when you do it together. So, us being together and having a unified mission is very important to us and also enjoyable.
Mike, we saw some different variations of the lineup during spring training. What went into making this opening day lineup today against Chris Sale?
Yeah, lefty. We saw some lefties, the spring training lineups. I know people pay attention to them, understandably, but, quite honestly, it's hard to, A, have the entire group that's going to be your starting lineup in spring training, and then B, face a righty or a lefty. In this case, we're facing Sale, lefty, and I feel like really confidently the line today made a lot of sense.
You always talk about competition. How do you want to keep that culture going for this season and moving forward?
Yeah, no, one of the things we talk about, I share is, as a competitors in this game, which, it's a highly competitive field, and we're excited to be in it, but embrace the competition. It's an opportunity, not a threat, but it is competition, and we all signed up for it. And, we'll just always have that competitive mindset of being better, better as the game goes, better as the series goes, and better as the season goes. And, when you have, to Scan's question, have a group that likes to compete together, but likes to compete, period. It's a lot of fun, and we're excited about it.
That's half the battle sometimes. I mean, you can put together a roster that is very talented, but they don't play well together, or they don't want to compete with each other, and disaster might come about. I mean, we've seen some Padres teams like that, but I think the way that this team went through the offseason, I think the way that they brought in good players over the last couple of years that have good mental makeup and want to, be part of a team together, and that team camaraderie. I think everything that Joe Musgrove has done with Club 44 and bringing these guys together over the last couple of years, I think is a big asset for the Padres. I mean, you talk about like how can the Padres, eventually, because eventually they're going to have to knock off LA, and you want to deal with that in the postseason instead of the regular season. Last year, the Padres did better than LA against them in the regular season, but it doesn't matter if you lose to them in the postseason. How do you knock off a team that just loaded up on more payroll after winning a World Series, after shutting you out for 24 straight innings, when you didn't add payroll with them? And what it is as much as, I don't think you can't win with vibes, you definitely can get some support with the vibes. And I think the vibes of the team and playing together as a unit goes a long way. I think you can see that in a lot of different facets of professional sports and other sports. When talked about, like with the way that you saw teams like I know UCSD didn't win against Michigan, but Michigan had a way more talented roster than UCSD in a lot of different ways. Yet, that being said, UCSD went toe-to-toe with Michigan, and all year long, the way that they played together as a unit, and that goes a long way. As somebody that's coached football now for 8 years, it's not a long period of time compared to other people, and it's at the high school level. It's a little bit different. But when you got teams that play for each other, they're usually very successful and outplay what the expectations are in terms of their talent level. And I think that's a big advantage to the Padres this year. They might not have the most talented roster. They do have a ton of talent and a lot of superstars still. But where it makes up for them is that cohesiveness, that playing together, that bonding that they have had together. That's part of the process. That's part of the environment for the Padres. That's what's going to take them to the next level. And it starts with guys like Joe Musgrove. It continues with Manny Machado and Fernando, guys like Xander Bogaerts. I mean, everything they did during the offseason. There's a lot of unfinished business from some of these players as they went into the offseason. A lot of unfinished business in the offseason. Guys like Jackson Merrill that were out there and, putting in the work because he wanted to get back to work immediately. He didn't take a lot of time off. Guys like Xander Bogaerts out there running around in his home country and trying to lose 10 pounds to get into shape for the regular season to play shortstop. I mean, there's a lot of different players that put in the extra work that I think is going to pay off. And it's more than just talking about it. Now you got to see it as we're getting closer to opening day festivities here at Baja Ricks. I'm Braden Surprenant, Show. Sam Levitt will take over at 12:10. Again, I mentioned the lineup earlier, and we'll go over it again. But to go a little bit above and beyond on this and what we're talking about, the next question that was asked to Mike Schilt was about that unfinished business, because a lot of these players had that unfinished business mindset going into the offseason, because last year they had a really good chance at winning a World Series. And I've been obviously I've been on this planet for 30 years, and every year has been a fan of the San Diego Padres. There hasn't been too many times in my lifetime where I looked at the team and was like, they got a really good chance at winning a World Series. Last year I did. At one point in the season, after a couple of the upgrades at the trade deadline, when they brought in Tanner Scott and Jason Adam, and they, earlier in the year with Luis Ariz and Dylan Cease, and the way that they were playing, I thought, I think it was in like mid-September, this team can probably win a World Series. And then all of a sudden, you end up losing to the Dodgers, who end up winning the World Series. And, they talked about all offseason about, how tough the competition was against the Padres. I mean, even though it's a compliment, it's, at the same time, you can't hang a banner for, we gave the Dodgers the toughest run, right? You don't get a banner for that. There's no such thing as a moral victory in sports. And if you want to be like, well, it's a compliment, but at the same time, it's you still didn't get the job done. So for this Padres team, they know about that unfinished business. They know what kind of team they have. They built this core out in order to do that, and in order to be successful for many years to come. And when you talk about Peter Seidler's vision, he wants this team to win and be part of the conversation every single year. It starts with the kind of the mental makeup of these players. I mean, this was not the case, 2018, 2017, even 2019 with some of these players like Machado and Fernando on the team. I mean, you're talking about an organization that did not have this tradition of winning before these guys showed up. And they came from other organizations that had that tradition of winning or had been part of World Series championship teams and understand what it takes to win. And then they had to build it here in San Diego. And so with that unfinished business mindset, they're going into 2025, swinging for the fences. And I'm curious to see how this team plays. Again, the last couple of years, they haven't won, or should I say made the playoffs in consecutive years in a long time. I mean, it's, 05, 06 is the last time the Padres went to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. So how do they get to that point in an odd year where we've seen playoff 2020, disappointment 2021, playoff 2022, disappointment 2023, playoff 2024, how do we go to the playoffs in 2025? It's that mindset going into it. And here's what Mike Schilt had to say about the unfinished business mindset that the players have and the team and organization has entering 2025.
One of the mantras has been unfinished business, and in talking to some of the players, I say not just what happened in the postseason last year, but really a feeling of the first half of the season was sort of trying to get to understand each other and this style of playing baseball, which they really embraced in the second half and took off with. How valuable is it that they now feel comfortable with that they own it and they can take it from day one?
Yeah, the ownership is important. Championship players think and do for themselves, and this group does own what they're doing, enjoying what they're doing. But the fact of the matter is there is unfinished business. There's some hunger to it that is real, and we can talk about all we want, but it's really more important that we go out and do it.
One of the mantras has been unfinished business, and talking
unfinished business mantra for the Padres. I mean, going out there and trying to take over and continue what they did last year. That's a big focus for this team in 2025. Build off of what they did last year. And we'll talk about, as the season progresses, as it moves on, as we, get to a position as, to see where the Padres are at and everything in between. I mean, we'll talk trade possibilities. We'll talk about upgrades in different spots. I mean, the Padres, and they're going to have opportunities to improve this roster. They're going to have opportunities to, build off of what they have started here in 2025. And we'll get to that as the season moves on. But they have to be able to build on last year. They have to be able to build on last year and be able to get to the playoffs a second time and compete for a division, maybe in the future, compete for a playoff spot for 2025 and, be able to go toe-to-toe with some of the teams in the National League. And it's going to be tough. I mean, we look at the National League again. I went through the American League, and we got a little bit of time left. We can give you a little bit of a National League preview. I mean, Atlanta to me is the best team in the National League East by far. And they're going to be, I think they're going to beat out the Phillies and the Mets, by maybe 10 games even. Even though they're supposed to all be competitive, I like Atlanta's roster more than any other roster in the National League East. I like the Phillies roster second most. I got them winning 89 games, and I got the Mets winning, around 82. Honestly, I think the Mets might be a little bit more of a disappointment than what is being expected right now of them. I mean, I know they got Juan Soto. That's a big add for the New York Mets, but their pitching staff is not some of the best in Major League Baseball. It's okay. There's Zach Yellen's in the house. Oh, the dogs are in the house. What's up? It's another softball team rolling through. There's a lot of familiar faces rolling into Baja Ricks here today. As we continue on with the Braden Surprenant show, we're going to take you up to about 12:04 before we take our final break and then get to Sam Levitt and the Padres pregame show. If you haven't done so already, go hit up Hamby, who's over here by the speaker. We're going to be giving away at the end of the show a signed Randy Vasquez baseball. So if you haven't done so already, go see Hamby. He's got his hand up. He's got the signed baseball. Hamby's going to be giving that out away as soon as the show ends. So get yourself in the hopper for that. We're going to do that in about 10 minutes or so. But anyway, back to the National League East. Again, I like Atlanta. I like Philly second. I like the Mets. I think you're going to have to outdo the Mets for a playoff spot in the National League wild card. I don't think the Nationals are going to be very good, but I think they're going to improve. I mean, the biggest question is, what kind of year does Mackenzie Gore have for the Nationals? What does James Wood do for the Nationals? These are two Padres farmhands that were expected to do a lot of great things for the Padres, traded in the Juan Soto trade. I had a phone caller the other day talk about, the Juan Soto move and everything in between with, wouldn't it be nice to have some of these pitchers right now? Well, maybe not so much on the Juan Soto move. I mean, you ended up getting pitchers back. Now, Johnny Brito not being healthy does not help you too much, but you got a Randy Vasquez. You got your opening day starter today for Juan Soto, so you got some of the pitchers back. And then with the moves were that hurt you in terms of pitching depth were the ones for rentals in the bullpen. But again, I think, with the Washington Nationals, how far can the Padres prospects that were sent over there carry the Washington Nationals here in 2025? That's going to be a big factor for them this year. I don't think it's going to be enough. I mean, we'll see how Mackenzie Gore does as their number one. I think the biggest loss that you have in that trade is obviously James Wood. But aside from that, C.J. Abrams has been okay as a member of the Nationals. He didn't make an all-star game, so I guess that's very big in that particular case. But overall, I got Atlanta winning the division, followed by Philly, followed by the Mets, Nationals, and Marlins. In the Central, I think it's a battle for mediocrity in the Central. I got the Cubs winning the division, but not by a lot. Them and Milwaukee will duke it out. Milwaukee lost some of their good players. I mean, Devin Williams, obviously a member of the New York Yankees now. The Cubs made a couple additions here and there. They're still not getting a whole lot of love. I don't think Kyle Tucker's going to be enough, to have them have a deep run. But that's a team you got to compete with for a wild card spot in the National League. So, I think the Cubs win the division, and then I think outside of that, I don't really think you have to worry about the National League Central too much. I got the Cubs finishing ahead of the Brewers. I think the Reds are going to be a little bit of a bounce back. They got Terry Francona now as their skipper. I mean, Tito Francona has a great track record, and he's going to turn some things around. They got some good pieces over there in Cincinnati that they added during the offseason. I think they're going to be a lot better than they've been in the past. Today, in opening day for the Reds in Cincinnati is like a huge, huge deal. They have a parade that goes through downtown. And I mean, obviously the originator, the first Major League Baseball team, in history, the Cincinnati Redlegs. They have great traditions. I mean, if you look at the opening day ticket prices for today, Reds Giants today is the number one spot. Most expensive tickets for any opening day. Giants and Reds. Padres up there, like kind of in the middle. It's $50 to get in on that list. But the number one ticket in town today is Reds and Giants, and it goes for like all the pageantry of Cincinnati Reds baseball on opening day. In terms of the NL West, I mean, it's basically going to come together to who finishes behind LA. I mean, unless LA's got a bunch of injuries, it's going to be hard to track them down. Don't worry about them until the end of the season. I got the Dodgers winning the division, followed by the Padres, Diamondbacks, Giants, and Rockies. I know the Giants are expected to be a little bit of an improvement, but I don't necessarily think they're going to be that much of an improvement. They added a couple of veteran guys to their organization. Obviously, they got Corbin Burns now for San Francisco, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to be enough. I mean, they got to deal with a really good Padres team and a really good Diamondbacks team, and that battle for the potentially the final playoff spot is going to be a fun race in 2025. Padres, Diamondbacks. I mean, that to me needs to be the biggest games that we talk about every single time they happen, whether it be in Arizona or be here in San Diego. That is the team that you need to be worried about the most. I preached it during this week. I preached it last week. I'm going to continue to preach it as we move on throughout the season. In terms of today's games, we got a lot of great games today around Major League Baseball. You know, today's game is you got the Chris Sale return to the opening day spotlight. Guy was a Cy Young Award winner last year. He has gone through such an interesting career from the White Sox to the Red Sox, now to Atlanta. You know, he had a battle back from injuries. He had a phenomenal season last year for Atlanta. Can he keep it up in 2025? That's going to be a big question. Reigning NL Cy Young Award winner, pitching Triple Crown champ, making his 6th career opening day start, but his first since 2019. Can he keep up last year's dominance? Hopefully the answer is no. And before we talk a little bit more about the Padres games, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Braden Surprenant Show on 97.3 The Fan. Michael King's first opening day start today. King, a key piece of the Padres rotation, struck out 12 Braves hitters in Game 1 of the National League Wild Card Series last year. Can he repeat that dominance? Year 2 of Michael King as a starting pitcher. Last year, he threw the most innings he had ever thrown in a single season, coming from the bullpen to a starting pitcher from New York. That's a lot of injuries on an arm, especially in this day and age of baseball. So can Michael King keep that up in 2025? Can he keep up the pace in 2025? And that's going to be a big question for the Padres as he's their number one. Jurickson Profar facing his former team today. Profar batting leadoff today for the Atlanta Braves. He'll be the first batter for the 2025 season at Petco Park. First batter for the Padres to face. Leadoff man Jurickson Profar of the Atlanta Braves. Breakout season in 2024, turned into a big contract with Atlanta. How will he fare today in the Braves debut against his old squad? How much chirping is Jackson Merrill going to give a guy like Jurickson Profar? And again, it's deja vu for the Braves. I mean, we were here not too long ago at Baja, Ricks, talking about a playoff game between the Padres and Atlanta. And we're back here, a little bit warmer, great afternoon, sun starting to peek through the clouds a little bit here downtown, getting ready for the Atlanta Braves for Game 1 of 2025. Second straight year Atlanta is opening its season in the city where its previous season ended in heartbreak. Do they change that? I mean, the fact that they've done that twice now is kind of remarkable. Keys of the game today, with 2 elite arms on the mound, could this be a low-scoring affair? Which lineup has a better chance of breaking through? Betting insights for you. Braves enter as minus 128 favorites against the Padres. Padres underdogs at home, plus 109 on the money line. Run line is set to the Braves minus 1.5, plus 143 odds, and the over-under total today is 7 runs for the Padres and the Atlanta Braves. I think today's going to be runs are at a premium with 2 really good pitchers coming together. To me, I think the big swing of the big hit today, I think is going to come from Fernando. He's batting leadoff for the Padres. I don't know if it's going to happen early, but the Padres got to get off to a good start today and a good start to the season coming up. That'll do it for me, the Braden Surprenant Show. Do it for us, 97 through the Fan at Baja Ricks. Thanks again to Ben and Woods for setting off the day. Thanks again to Baja Ricks as well as Blowfish Tequila. Everybody here that has come out to get ready for Padres baseball. Sam Levitt and the Padres pregame show live from the loft up next. Get you ready for first pitch for Braves and Padres on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Thanks, guys.
I'm Bobber.